I'd like to introduce to you the founding members of Family Voice in Norfolk, but more importantly, their principal roles are those of mothers with sons who have disabilities.
I'm Karen Wooddissee. I am a parent of a now very grown-up 12-year-old on the autistic spectrum. He's an amazing young man who has come from the original kicking, screaming child who said nothing until he was 5 to a young man who now can talk to me far more than I want to know, particularly about history, which is his specialist subject. I've learned a lot from my son. I've learned a huge amount along the way about being a parent of a child with a disability. I have become very involved in the voluntary sector. First of all, I became committee member and then trustees of small organisations in my area, particularly those that were looking at autism. I have still got some of those roles, but I've added and collected a few along the way, and Family Voice is one of those. I am vice chair of our local forum. I've also have a big involvement now with the National Autistic Society, as I was elected trustee of that organisation last year, and really a big involvement in what is happening for parents. I met Anna at the launch of something called Early Support, which might be familiar to some of you in our area. It was before we had a parents' forum, and we were asked to just go along and talk about how early support would have helped us as parents. We did that. We then started to work with the local team on early support and train and be involved in some of the things that were happening, our steering group and things like that. And eventually we became a national training provider for early support. We are now capacity builders and out there working with other parents, helping other parents to come forward and be trainers on early support and other initiatives as well. So that's a little bit about me. Anna.
Right, on the other half, it works quite nicely, and we wanted to do this together because we do everything together. And I think the key message on today is you cannot do this alone. Yes. Which is why there's two of us. It also works quite nicely because Karen, as she's explained, has a son who took a long time to be diagnosed, to be recognised, and has had very few services. I'm completely the opposite end. I've got a son with a label of complex health needs. At the age of 3, we were told he was unlikely to survive to the age of 12, and he has just turned 18. Which to me is a very strong message when we're working with other parents. Don't give up hope, keep going. So I became involved in a completely different world with stacks of help, tons of things. I mean, everybody's threshold, everybody's criteria, which is great, but it's an awful lot to cope with, a lot of people to work with. So I became involved in a different way, mostly with complex health, and I'm been chair of a special school for 9 years. Of which I'm very proud, and then I got involved with palliative care mostly. Palliative care is quite wide now. This doesn't just mean end-of-life care, and I think that's something a lot of people need to remember. I got involved. I was a parent trustee for ACT, the Association of Children's Palliative Care. I went to the launch of the National Palliative Care Strategy. I was the only parent in the room of about 200 or 300 people. A microphone was going round and people were saying to the minister and to the civil servants, great strategy, fantastic, wonderful, marvellous. I got the mic and I went, hi, I'm a parent, great strategy, fantastic, marvellous, where's the money? Explained that my son had an end-of-life care plan, an end-of-life care team, but the team's now gone, so the plan wasn't worth the paper it was written on. Obviously, having been a bit outspoken, caught somebody's attention because I got a phone call from the Department of Health the following week saying, actually, would I put my money where my mouth is and be the parent rep for health on aiming high for the implementation group, O'Shavney, which is a hell of a responsibility. But what's working nice now is because we're doing early support work up and down the country, and because we're doing a lot of work helping other parents set up parent forums through TDC and other stuff we do, I now think we have actually got good representation. So it starts from tiny things, which we're going to talk about now, through to being able to sit there and I think my proudest moment probably on the MIG was when they decided that they weren't actually going to call the core offer a core offer anymore. They were going to call it something else, and I can't remember what it was. And I said, absolutely no way. If you say you're going to have a core offer, then you have a core offer. Because if you start changing the wording of aiming high now, then parents are not going to believe anything you say. And I was quite chuffed because they turned around and said, right, okay, it's going to be called off core offer. It's caused huge confusion ever since, but it did mean that you do what you say you're going to do.
Parents' forums. Many years ago, I started to talk to my the then leader of my local authority and say, yeah, we like all these services. Well, we like some of these services. Well, actually, a lot of these services aren't the things that we really want. I had spent my last employed job was working for one of these nice quangos. I was the lead for something called Business Link. It was very much about small businesses and getting them to have a single point of contact, somewhere to go for all the information they needed, and somewhere to get everything in one place. One person to help lead them through. When I was asked to go to the early support launch, I thought, oh, this is exactly what I was doing 15 years ago when I had a job. And it fulfills that role that says, actually, parents do know what services they want. Parents don't think that there's an endless pot of money. We understand budgets. We have to do that every day, especially when you have a child with a disability. You know that actually your disability living allowance doesn't pay for everything they need, even if you add on the child benefits. So we understand that concept. But what we need to do is make sure that we spend it in the best way possible to reach as many parents and make as much difference as we can make. We do know what the services are that we need. And that is not about a lot of what I would call traditional consultation that says, this is what we're going to do, this is how we've decided we would like to spend this money, do you like it? Actually, what we need to be able to say is, these are the services we need, these are the things that we need to change, this is the best way of spending all of that money, and these are the outcomes that you can achieve by that. And who better than those of us who are parents, who are living that life every day? We actually understand what we need. And I did say to the then leader of the council, we're fed up with being on the end of the strategy. We would like to be on the beginning of the strategy and help to ensure that actually the money is being spent in a wise way.
We started off with a very small group, 4 of us, and 2 of us are still remaining. One was so disillusioned and so angry that he backed out. One, her son has grown up into adult services, so she's now battling with them instead. I think the key message on that is you don't need a huge number of people to get started. You need 1 or 2 of you. I was sent off on a conference years ago by the local authority to go and hear about other parents' forums, and I heard about Calderdale and Leicestershire, and they scared the pants off me. They were so organised, they were so far ahead of us, and I thought there was no way we're ever going to get to that. So we went back, and we're lucky, in Norfolk, we were talking about doing this before aiming high and before this money, so we'd actually got going. So we have a champion, and I think that's what you all need to find. Local authority people, you need to find your parent champions. Parents, you need to find your local authority champion, and you need to get together. And we've got one chap who had a vision and made damn sure that it came out into reality. And he has been battling away for a long time. In 2000, he asked me as a parent governor, as chair of governors, to go on a best value review. And in 2000, that was pretty new stuff. So what we did was, we were given a link person in the local authority, somebody that we all knew, that we liked, that we trusted. She was involved with service integration. She's actually now aiming high lead, which has worked superbly. And believe it or not, when she got that job, there were parents on the interviewing panel. And we had Liz here in the red from Contact Family, who came down and did to a certain degree what we're doing today. She came and told us what other parents are doing, what you can do, and she got us going. We had an open meeting, one in the morning, one in the next daytime, sorry, one at night, one in the next daytime. I was expecting a flood, and I've learnt you don't get floods. I've had to temper my enthusiasm and to realise not everybody wants to go charging out doing all this. And out of our, say, 20-odd one meeting and 20-odd the next meeting, we got 15 of us who said, right, we'd all to get together and we'd set up a steering group. And we had our first meeting. One of the first things I said to Liz is, how are we going to manage all our disagreements? How are we going to manage that we're all going to want to go charging off in different directions? And I think she gave me some very sound advice. Just stick with it, ride the storm, but have a structure. And we had a structure, and I think that's one of the most important things. We have a proper structure. On that first meeting, we have a 2.5-hour meeting. 2 hours was taken up choosing our logo, Family Voice. That took forever to choose what we wanted to be called and what we wanted our strapline to be. What we have done is we have now got a pack, because we've been doing this spiel a bit in the eastern area, and people are saying, we'd quite like this, we'd quite like to be Family Voice Luton, Family Voice Bedfordshire, etc. We now have got a pack set up for that, and we have an arrangement if anybody's interested to talk about it later. So we spent the time discussing that. We've got a chair, we've got a vice chair, we've got a treasurer, that's me, we've got a secretary, and we've got an issues committee, and we've got an admin committee, and we structured it. And that has made a big difference. It has earned us respect, which I think is important. We are organised. But I think the main thing is it has helped us when we have started to get tired or frazzled or not all quite agree. So we did have a lot of help from the authority, and we had a lot of help from Liz. Our aims, basically, are to do exactly what Karen said. Is to improve services of our children together. And I think the most important thing is that we agreed that we would cover from 0 to 25. The age was a long discussion. The trouble is, what we thought also is that parents like mine of young people that are just coming in to the end of children's services, you've actually got a bit more time, a bit more energy, a little bit more time to step back and reflect, and we tend to be the ones running our committee. Although we're very pleased to say a couple of days ago we got a dad with a 3.5-year-old joining us, which is a whole new world. But also connection stops at 25. The other thing we also agreed, which I think has already been proved a very useful point, and I would point out, we agreed also that if you lose a child, you are still a member. And one of our steering group lost her son very suddenly, and she's still a member. What we have is we've got a structure where we've got full members and associate members and things like that. So we're quite structured, and that has helped us a lot. So I think I'll just sort of tell you, Karen, how do we hope to achieve our aims is by what we're doing and by sticking at it. And I think having now hit the arena where the public eye, where the public's money is being spent on parents' forums, has worked really, really nicely for us, and we're riding on the crest of that wave.
What do we actually do? As Anna says, we have a structure. So we have a steering group. We have 2 committees. One looks at issues, and it was Liz who came and gave us our very first issue. We had in the audience a mum who immediately heard the word that Liz said, continence service. And she said, I'm in for this if I can change what happens around incontinence and nappies and pads. I am definitely going to be part of this organisation. That lady's name is actually Stephanie, but she became the nappy lady. And Stephanie now chairs our issues committee, and her very first issue was getting it changed to be a continence service and getting some dignity and some consistency into her new styled continence service. That has been a very long journey for her. She took the issue to the service providers and said, look, this is an issue. It's pan-disability. It doesn't matter what disability your child has. If they have continence issues, actually, what we don't want is lots more nappies. What we don't want is lots more money spent on more of the same. What we really want is some help to get our children out of nappies. And sometimes that's following the very normal path of providing pull-ups. Nothing very difficult there, but it just didn't fit within the current system. Her own child, who's 14, has begun to make moves towards being continent. A huge step for a parent who just heard that word and said, yes please, I'll have some of that. If Liz says it can be achieved somewhere else, I'd like to have a go. So we pick our own issues, we take those to service providers, but they're done through a structure, through a committee. It's not just a number of parents going off and saying, well, I think I'll do a bit about this and I'll do a bit about that. It is about getting consistent messages. What works for children with disabilities who have incontinence issues is going to be the same whichever disability it is. There are going to be some key things that we can achieve together. Equally, we do an awful lot of consultation work and true participation work with the local authority. They may say, we'd like 6 parents to talk to us about short breaks. And that's fine. We have a membership we can go to, and we say to our members, if this is something you're interested in, you can come along and talk to this focus group. So we will provide focus groups. More importantly, we are involved in lots and lots of issues groups. If there are project boards, issues groups that are current and standing and where a parent could be helpful, then we look to get a parent as a parent, not as something else, but just as a parent on that group, to give the parent's perspective and the parent's voice. Obviously that's a two-way process, because we share the papers. They come out, we get the agenda and we get the papers, and they go out to our steering group, and we're asking continually, what do you want me to say about this paper? What are there things that you know that I don't know? Because my son has autism. He doesn't have complex health needs. So I need help from my colleagues to make sure that if I'm the parent representative, that I am able to represent parents throughout my own organisation of Family Voice. We have a whole host of those sorts of things. Anna mentioned that we have also been involved in interviewing for key posts. When our Sendist appeals officer recently resigned, we were on the panel that appointed the new Sendist appeals officer, which from a perspective that was a hugely powerful message back to us. Sendist appeals are very hard. They're a very difficult time for parents, and actually to be able to appoint somebody who we felt was approachable and that we would be able to get along with and wasn't going to put barriers in front of us as a matter of course, what was a very powerful message. These are just some of the groups that we have an involvement in. Lots of those we are there as Family Voice, as an equal partner around the table. When we have parents going forward to be part of these groups, we felt that for a long time it is only parents who are sitting around the table who are not expensed, they are not paid, they are there because of course they want to change the services. Well, yes we do, but there is a value attached to that. So we have looked at how we can pay parents for consultation work. That is consultation and participation. And if everybody else around the table is being paid a salary, we feel very strongly that their input should be valued equally and that they should be paid as well as given the expenses. And of course there's that little issue of childcare for those children who are not in school. And that's how most of those groups, with the one exception, which is the one that I know best. The ASD Steering Group for Children is a big multi-agency group that I have been a part of at first because I came from the voluntary sector. I was trustee of the local autistic society, so I was asked to go along in that capacity, but actually I was only at the Autistic Society because I was a parent. Otherwise, I would have probably chosen something else to go and do. That was why I was there. Over a period of time, and those of you who've been around a little while will remember the whole reorganisation of children's services and the bringing together of social care and education, and that was a very difficult time within local authorities. And a lot of people were uncertain about their futures. And I remember being really cross one day and saying, this group isn't actually achieving anything. And the response, of course, was, well, actually, it's very difficult when you don't know whether you're going to have a job next week and everything is being changed and it's all very uncomfortable. Well, of course, I reflected that back to my own past when I was employed and I'd been in just that situation. I created this monster called Business Link, which meant that, suddenly the role and the job that I'd had before no longer existed. So I understood how that felt. But equally, I understood that these children's lives weren't on hold for the next 2 years while we get reorganisation sorted out. So I got a little bit big for my boots, and when the current chair said, I can't do this because I'm not sure that it's going to fit within my new remit, I said, I'll do it. I'll be the chair, but I will only be the chair as a parent, not as part of the voluntary sector. I am now the chair of that group. It has an action plan that's going somewhere. We're achieving things. And the local authority and the PCT actually now see it as a very positive move, that actually I'm not in conflict with anybody. I'm not protecting anybody's budget. I am there as a parent saying, how can we work together? What is our action plan? How do we get people trained to understand these children in schools? How can we do this? Which is very different than some of the agendas that come. Our representatives, our Family Voice representatives who go to those groups, often we will take another parent with us who we would like to take on that role and mentor them through, because it's pretty scary the first time you go to anything like that. If it's not in your background, if you haven't done that before, that can be quite off-putting. So we've developed a system now where I am the SAN strategy project board person, and I take somebody with me who I'm hoping one day very soon is going to say, I'll be able to take this on now, which then leaves me an opening to mentor somebody else into another position.
So we're constantly planning for the future, and the future is very important. We need to be sustainable, and it's a bit like the teaching profession will tell you, too many teachers are 50 plus. We need to bring up our next generation. It's the same with parents' forums. There's no point in just sitting there thinking, great, we've cracked it. We need to be bringing up our next lot of parents. So one of the things we wanted to do, which is different in some ways to yourselves, we are a very wide geographical area. We're a very rural authority. And we have parents in all sorts of different locations. We're both very passionate. There is no such thing as a hard-to-reach parent. You just haven't tried hard enough. And so we said, as parents, there's no point in expecting somebody who doesn't drive a car, that lives in a very rural village, to come out and sit on a strategy board. What are they going to get out of it? So we're setting up and have used our TDC Grant 1 money to have satellite groups. And so what we did is we went to the 5 areas of the local authority, which I'm sure would transpose quite easily into an inner city borough, because you would go to where your families are that can't come or won't come or don't want to come to you. What we decided, we would have focus groups with the first ones of these, and of course the obvious crowd puller, the obvious hot topic was short breaks. So parents would come along and say, and they'd meet our short break team and meet us, and they'd say, I only came because it's short breaks. And they went, great, well, while you're here, this is our parents' forum, and very few of them got out of the door without signing up, because we need to increase our membership. We would really want everybody to have a voice. It's so, so important. And I think one of the things that we've made sure is that we want to get an age range. We do want to try and attract families of children, very little children. We're lucky because of our early support work. We are meeting those parents. They're coming on the workshops up and down the country, which is great. And they're the ones that suddenly get the confidence to speak out for their child. Then to perhaps, the step tends to be often, you speak out for your child, then you speak out for children like your child. So you're in a disability-specific local support group or something. Then you start to think, actually, we've all got the same problems, and you start to want to fight for all children with disabilities. That's where the strength of a forum is. You cannot become one particular disability. You cannot be this lot banging on about this, or this lot banging on about that, because you lose all your credibility. So age range, disability range, very important to us. So we thought by going out to satellite groups, we will find the parents that we want to find. Our next topic for the satellite groups, interestingly enough, is that all areas, as some of you will know, have to have a service directory, a point of information where all services in the local authority or the borough are available. New stuff, frightening stuff for some people, could be really useful, but if you look at your emerging service directory, how much of it is relevant for children with disabilities? Precious little. So our team, because we work with them, which is quite nice, have agreed that they will come and meet our satellite groups, come to talk to parents in the 5 areas and ask them what are the local services, the local groups, the local things that you would like. We were going to populate this service directory altogether. It's a good topic and it's something people are interested in. Funding, Year 2 grant. We're different to many groups because we've been going a while. We've got quite a strong, solid structure now. We need to look at and work with TDC about how we're going to build our membership, grow what we're doing, and the key thing we need to do as parent representatives is use our time and energy on doing what we do well, which is represent parents, not spending our time and energy on doing admin and database inputting and bookkeeping and all that sort of stuff, which we've got to have, but is a waste of our skills. So that's where we're heading to go. Long-term sustainability, I think also, we like the idea that the parents' forums ahead of us have done, have got local service agreements, local level agreements with their local authorities. And we will be looking to negotiate a contract with our local authority where they will bulk purchase a certain number of consultation hours, parent participation hours within the year, and then we will then run that. And that's the sort of thing we need to do. What we are finding, and I may be speaking out of turn here, but we are finding working with the local authority is much easier and quicker than working with PCTs, because they keep reconfigurating and changing, and the leads, the people we build up relationships with, change. And so some of you may be finding actually working with both is easier. If you're in an area where you work with both equally, you're jolly lucky, I'd say. Challenges, learning to work together. We have learnt to respect each other's points of view. And not only that, you can't join something like this to only change something for you and your child and your child's school or your child's disability. So we're learning a lot, and we'll be honest about it. It's been quite challenging at times, but we have learnt a lot. Different interests and passions. You've got to sort out where you're going to go, and that's why a structure is working well, because we decide where we're going to go collectively. We can't all go shooting off in different directions.
Sometimes it feels to me, and I amaze myself sometimes, because within this group I probably have a different view than I do in other groups. My role in this group is actually, I find myself continually saying, we mustn't become an internal machine. We mustn't become policies and procedures and admin. We must look out, first of all, at what is happening within our own area and what we can achieve. But we must latch on to what the big agendas are. We must look at what is aiming high trying to achieve. What are the big agendas out there for children with disabilities, and how can we use that as a lever to achieve what we need to achieve in our area? We must be out there, we must be talking to parents, but also we must be watching websites and finding out what's going on. We found that for us that comes fairly naturally. We both have national roles, which allows us to understand what is going on. If you haven't got those, you need to look at how you are going to tie that in, because they are the strongest levers you will get. If it's government agenda and government policy and you know that it is, then it is much easier to achieve than something that's very off to the side. We need to achieve those things too, but the easy things to achieve are those where you've got some policy and some guidance out there to help you achieve them. Prioritising and choosing a hot topic. Again, it is things like nappies, it is things like short breaks. We need things that parents are interested in. And usually when you are a parent, you've got a good idea of what it is that other parents are going to be interested in. Sustainability, training and support. Everything tells me that it doesn't come naturally. I found that when I became a parent of Mark, it was different, even to becoming a parent for the first time. When I became a parent for the first time, I suddenly became Anya's mum. When I had Mark, and when Mark was diagnosed with autism at the age of 3, I became the parent of an autistic child. I wasn't even a mum anymore. I'd just become this parent of a child with autism. Nobody ever asked me, in these groups that I got involved with, what did you do before? Nobody thought that I had a past. Nobody knew that I understood multi-agency working. Nobody knew that I could write bids for funding, because nobody actually asked me. And I think that's a key thing, particularly if you're an organisation that's going to work with parents to help them set up these parent forums, is look at what skills, ask that question. What did you do before you became a parent of a disabled child? There is lots of skills out there. But equally, there is lots of training, lots of support out there. TDC website has a whole list of people that will help. It is key, as Anna says, that you get the confidence, first of all, to work with and ask for what your own child needs. We work with a lot of parents, and we know the most difficult thing to say for the first time is, hello, I'm Karen, my son is 12 years old and has autism. Until you can do that for your own child, it is very difficult to go and knock on the local authority's door or the PCT's door and say, I'm from the Parents Forum and I'm coming to talk to you about nappies. So how are you going to be supported? Where are you going to get that support and training from? There will be some people out there who, if you ask them the question, what did you do before, will be able to do it. If not, where is that support going to come from to enable them to have that confidence?
Parent participation means one thing. What it means is you as parents have power to help shape decisions and work in partnership with professionals in your local area to decide what is right for your local area.